Good evening, everybody. Let's get started. First item of business tonight for the Committee of the Whole is the a board appointment for City Council approval. Please put this on the agenda for August 19th, City Council meeting. Park and Rec Board, Tom Rivera, term expiration of 12/31/25, to fill Alex Wood's vacant seat. And would Mayor Slutz like to come up, please?
Good evening, Council, and thank you, Pro Tem. As you know, City Council has to approve the appointments to the Rec Board. With Alex Wood's resignation to coach for the Tigers, I'd like to bring forward Tom Rivera, a lifelong city resident, to be in that position on the Rec Board.
Hi, my name is Tom Rivera. I'm a lifelong resident of Massillon. I love my community, and this is just something I feel I can do to give something back. That's what I'd like to try to do.
You don't currently receive any pay or stipends from the city of Massillon or the school system, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Oh,
Comment.
I'm sorry. Councilwoman Cunningham.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, Mayor Slutz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to Community Development. Councilwoman Creamer.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. I have no new business, but I do have two ordinances that will be up for second reading. Ordinance number 60-2024 and 61-2024. This 60-2024 is the ordinance enacting Chapter 778, Adult Use Cannabis Control, under Part 7, Business Regulation Code. We did have a public meeting this evening at 5:30 here in the chamber. We did have a letter that was read. It was written by Pastor Tisha Ashu in favor of this ordinance. And then we also had a Bloom Cannabis representative, Andrew Wagner, that spoke in favor of this also. At this time, does anyone have any other additional questions or concerns that need to be asked at this time? All right, that's all I have for community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Creamer. Economic Development, Councilman Ray.
Thank you, President. I have nothing or no new business today. Thanks.
Thank you. Health, Welfare, and Building Regulations, Councilwoman Cunningham.
Nothing at this time.
Noise Ordinance.
Snuck it under me, didn't you? We all received copies this evening. We all are going to be reading over them.
Can we call President Mack or Assistant Law Director Mack up to discuss this?
Yes. May he come up, please?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Leader. This is a much more refined, really enactment-ready version of the ordinance that we've spoke about, I think a month or two ago. I know everyone's kind of seeing this for the first time, so I'll just kind of hit some highlights. The decibel levels that are expressed in that ordinance, they're based on a few things, but primarily from the study from the Association of Audiologists that has, quantified experts in this field to kind of give a frame of reference, and then consultation with other city ordinances Middlesbrough Heights, review the Ohio Municipal League, some of their draft materials, and this really would be in line with what we're seeing in other communities that have enacted an enforceable, objective noise ordinance. It's the decibel levels are lower than what was put in place in the city of Canton, because I think that on a fair review of Canton's ordinance, they were high. But that's, of course, up to this body as to what you ultimately would like to do. When you think about the decibel number, though, I think it is helpful to remember how the ordinance functions, and that a violation or a potential violation is not measured, standing next to a piece of industrial machinery on the potential offender's property, right? It's on, whoever's initiated the complaint. That's where it's measured from. And so if we think of like heavy industrial property, we already have setbacks that are in place, and noise dissipates as it travels. And so while the decibel level may be pretty high next to the machine, as you get further out, doubling the distance, every time it doubles, it decreases by 6 decibels. And it seems that based on our zoning setback requirements, this would be in line with what we're already experiencing, particularly considering that, how many facilities do we have that run 3 shifts? Because it does go down at night. There's several, but those that do run 3 shifts, they're in very industrial areas. Another point I think that's helpful to consider is that, if there is a business or a particular event that needs to exceed this Director of Safety Service has the authority to grant variances. Now, it's not just arbitrary. It has to be based, there's criteria in the ordinance that has to be weighed. But there is that ability. It's not a complete bar. The enforcement of the ordinance then, how does this happen? It would be primarily by the Massillon Police Department. It would be a criminal offense if there is a violation, and there's a warning provision in there. It's a sophisticated device that you actually have to use in order to have a trial, stand up in court. And it's defined in the actual ordinance. That's something that our officers are very familiar with: calibrations, breathalyzers, speed devices. Which officers would be designated to have this responsibility to learn that device if there are issues? That would be up to Director of Safety and Service in her discretion, but that's the way that we have it structured. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Councilwoman Creamer?
All right, not reading through this, just listening to what you're saying. If there is a violation, then we go through like the court process. It's not that individual business having corrective action
So
to
there,
reduce the decibel. It's just paying a fine and going through the court system.
it provides both remedies. So the punitive, the penalty portion is through the criminal justice system. It's quicker, cheaper, all those things. The injunctive relief that's also available in the statute is civil. That's a civil issue. And so that would have to be through my department in the law department. We would have to initiate a civil suit in order to get a court order that says, do that again, you better bring your toothbrush next time I see you because you're going to go to jail.
And what criteria is going to be used in order to move forward with a variance by the Safety Service Director? What's going to be that criteria?
So if we look at the draft, it's on page 4, in the middle of the page, subsection F. There has to be an actual showing. It's very similar to what we already do in zoning. There has to be an actual showing. The burden is affirmatively on the person who's requesting the exception to demonstrate the special need, whatever the attenuating circumstances are, and then also to demonstrate, what the technology is, what the need is, what the event is, and to actually have data to support the request. And then making the determination under Section 2, the factors are the Director of Public Safety and Service has to balance the hardship that the applicant, the need, the prejudice that they're going to suffer if they can't continue to operate this giant machine or whatever past 9 o'clock, and the detrimental effect that it has on the surrounding community. So, it will be a factualized determination that would have to be made by the Safety Service Director, because something at Freshmark is going to be more innocuous than something that's, downtown. And in making that decision, if the Director of Public Safety and Service, it's not just, she doesn't have to say if she wants to grant it, okay, wholesale, the law doesn't apply to you anymore. There can be conditions imposed. Okay, you can exceed it, but only for an hour after the deadline. Or you can do that if you put up certain buffers or something to that effect. So the concepts are really similar to zoning, but it'll be an enforceable, objective way to evaluate a particular need. And if the applicant disagrees, then that's not the end of the road. They can go to the common police court, just like with any other administrative appeal.
Councilwoman Brian Huth.
Thank you. I appreciate all of that verbiage and how enforceable it is with the variances. Going back to the grab your toothbrush, you're going to jail, how do we see that making the noise stop?
So I meant that in the context of an injunction, right? So if Judge Frank Forcioni, who's someone I've witnessed really take his orders very seriously in the enforcement of his orders, anyone who's appeared before him understands that, and a violation of a court order, which is what an injunction is punishable by contempt of court. And a remedy a judge could and would impose if they granted injunctive relief would be to, if you do not stop, you do not come back out of jail. So contempt is the most serious measure a court can really issue. But it gives the law department the ability to request that type of relief, very similar to how we do it with zoning violations.
So help me understand further. If it's not, Joe Smith and his business here that is right next to a residential unit, if it's someone who is far removed, if it's a larger business that we don't have hands-on, how do we get that through a court injunction?
So a business that has a continuous operation of like industrial machinery as an example, that would be easier to probably request an injunction from a court than say like a loud party or a concert, because we have a continuing threat of the use. And the factors that the court weighs in granting an injunction, it's a high showing that the city would have to demonstrate. The party, right, or the people who are just, flaunting the rights of their neighbors, that's where the criminal element's important. Because anytime we do anything in the civil division, we walk over to the common police courts, it's $400 before we even walk in the door just to file the complaint, in addition to the drafting. Our police are clearly very, very well versed in preparing criminal complaints, making the probable cause determinations. The penalties aren't going to be as severe. I mean, they are. I would not want to be convicted of misdemeanors, and they get progressively worse. But you're not looking at jail time for that. You're looking at fines. And in it, the more violations that happen, as they get, I forget what actually the duration is, but it is progressive criminal punishments. Last thing I will say is there are other ordinances, both in our code, the revised code, the state revised code, and the common law, that also deal with nuisances, loud noises that can be implicated. This ordinance is in addition to all of those rights. It doesn't take any rights that the city has away or that any neighbor would have. It's an additional tool and an objective, enforceable tool that, you know, our public safety officials can use to, you know, hopefully help our residents.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Assistant Law Director Mack. I appreciate your input. Councilwoman Cunningham, I would like to have the Health and Welfare Committee move forward in putting this on a legislation request and getting it into the council agenda. If you'd like, I can handle that and get it on the try and get it on the 19th agenda. Yeah, to get it on for first reading. We'd need a couple of verbals for that. So once I get it drawn up, I'll get a hold of you and let you know.
That'll be fine, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else for health and welfare?
Not this evening.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Cunningham. Parks and Rec, Councilwoman Harwick Smith.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardi. I have nothing new for Parks and Recs.
You've been screaming? For police and fire, I have nothing new. Public utilities and environmental, Councilwoman Brian Huth.
Thank you. Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Rules and courts and civil service, Councilman Gregg.
Nothing for rules and courts tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Streets, highways, and traffic safety, Councilwoman Cunningham.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. And last but not least, finance, Councilman Lewis.
Yeah, first I'll go over the old. We have the budget, the requested, you know, the list that goes to the county. It's not the actual budget, but it's just letting the county know what we foresee as possible needs and justification of the money that we collect. We do this every year. They dub it as the wish list. Is there anybody have any questions? We do have the deputy auditor in attendance. This would have to be passed on Monday in order to make the deadline to have it to the county on Tuesday. So if you do have any concerns or questions, please reach out to the auditor or be prepared to discuss on Monday. All right. The next piece I have is please prepare an ordinance to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the 1206 Muni Motor Vehicle tax collection $123,565 for the main Tremont Roundabout project. I do see the engineer present. I am sure he has some words to say. And this does have emergency language in it so that it would release funds for the design efforts scheduled for fiscal year of 26, which would be second half of next
I
year.
thought this was disbanded.
Go ahead.
Guess not.
Good evening, Council. Yes, just as the reason states, this is to release funds for the design efforts for the main and Tremont Roundabout, scheduled for fiscal year 26. So yeah, we're trying to get moving on this. We want to bid out and award this project sometime in July or August of next year, but we need to get moving on the design. And this is what the funds are here for, to appropriate it for the design through MS Consultants. So,
Mr. Pitts, we are using some state funding for this as well.
Federal carbon reduction funds. Yeah, so this project was, it went through a grant process, a grant application, and we received $822,000 for the total cost of the project, and we're obligated to at least provide 20% of the total project cost. So total project cost is estimated to be $1,028,274 even. So 20% of that would be $205,655.
And then we have also already purchased the property formerly known as Third Base and removed the building, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Anybody else? Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you. Was there a study done about why we need to do this roundabout?
Yes, there was. There was a traffic study. It's all in the grant application. I can send that over to you. That was done in 2022.
22.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I have signed it to be on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next piece we have here is please prepare an ordinance to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the general fund, $8,080 for the salary director, $16,770 for salary clerk, $4,200 for PRS, $790 for Medicare, for a total of $29,840. No emergency language needed. And this is to release the established funds for expenses related to our safety service director class grade adjustment that we made earlier this year, if you recall, and also in the hiring of the animal control officer. Lori, if I can have a moment. This is an easy one. We just haven't seen you in a while, so I just wanted to make sure you came up here and said hello to everybody. What's that?
She's been here, you've been gone.
Well,
It's true, I've seen the rest of you.
well, maybe I want to make my acquaintance again.
Good evening, Council.
Hey, so under the salary clerk, that is the animal control officer?
Yes, it is.
then?
Yes, that is.
And that's just how we,
That's the line, that's the other line item for salary at this time.
For the
under
safety
that.
service.
Yes, yes.
are we going to look at changing that, or are we just going to leave?
We could look at changing that during budget
the
time
budget
as
cycle,
well.
just
Yes.
so it's more clear what it's.
Yeah, well,
under.
we can break that out.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right. While I have you up here, I'll just go ahead and skip to, well, so the transfer, we see again, hospital dental salary, same concept?
Yes,
This is
yes.
one for the animal control officer?
Correct. We used what we had allocated already within that budget to move what we could, and then we went to the general fund for the rest.
So we were just about 20,000 short for the animal control officer, and we're,
Yeah, about 25.
okay. And I don't think the rest of them are for you.
Oh, I could do the next one, too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving on to transfers, guys, just so you know, because instead of making her come back up. So we have a transfer in here as well. It says hospital dental reduction by 3,000, putting into salary and clerk. And as we just discussed, it was to cover the salary to the animal control officer. The next piece we have under transfers is related to 30,000 out of accumulated sick and putting that into arbitrator services and contracts.
Yes, so it is contract season. All 5 unions are in the process of negotiations. Along with that is anything that would be some Bureau of Workers' Comp claims and things like that. So this was I talked with Earl Wise, and this was a request to get this money transferred so we could continue with those negotiations.
Anybody have any questions about that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry for jumping around. I just wanted to ask those questions while she was up here. So back to the legislation piece. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? So I will sign that and put that on for the agenda on Monday. Additional transfers still, one of them is from the municipal court, reducing their service and contracts by 5,000, placing it into travel, school, and seminar. It's for upcoming bills. Any questions? And then my last piece is from the golf course legends, removing 28,500 from capital improvements, putting it into supplies and pro shop, and then removing 8,000 from utilities, placing that into food and beverage. And this is just to realign the budget to make sure we are able to pay for the supplies and contracts associated with operations. Any questions or discussion? That is all I have, Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. If nobody else has anything else, we are finished for this evening. Thank you.